Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool beat Arsenal by 3 goals to 1 yesterday, putting themselves back into firm contention for the top four. So all in all, it was a brilliant performance from Liverpool yesterday, and it was the performance we've been waiting for pretty much the whole of 2017 now. We saw a few moments of, what we had yesterday against Spurs, but yesterday was really the complete performance and a complete Klopp performance, and just the kind of performance that we haven't seen from Liverpool since the turn of the year. And it does sort of beg the question as why we haven't seen that. What has been going wrong, because we've sort of exhausted all the other options of maybe it's because Mane isn't there, maybe it's because Coutinho isn't there, or Matip isn't there. But I mean, now we can just hope that this does help us kick on and we carry on playing like that in every game for the rest of the season, because if we do, then I see no reason why we can't get top four. But looking at each part of the team's performance individually, Mignolet did pretty well, didn't really have much to do, did most of what he had to do pretty well. There was one moment where he came out and claimed a cross over Danny Welbeck that really impressed me, because it was that kind of moment where Mignolet has become famous for maybe, being a bit too hesitant, not deciding whether to come for the ball or stay in his goal. And he also caught the ball as well, rather than just flapping at it or punching it away. So that really impressed me. With the goal, I think he gets a bit unlucky. It is a very good finish from Welbeck, and he does about as much as he possibly can to try and cover the goal, so I'm not going to blame him too much for that. Onto the back four, Matip and Klein both had very good games. Again, not much either of them could really do about the goals. Matip's looking like he might start to be getting back to the form that he showed pre-injury. Klavan showed that he is a very good deputy for Lovren, and I imagine Lovren might actually have a fight on his hands for that other centre-back spot, because obviously Klavan has the bonuses such as the fact that he is an actual left-sided centre-back, so he maybe complements Matip a bit more in that regard, and obviously him and Lovren are quite different players, so it'll be interesting to see what Klopp does from here on in. But I personally am just glad that Klavan's back on the pitch, because he hasn't actually played too many games, and Lucas is a good player, but he's not the best deputy when it comes to playing at centre-back. Milner, good game, nothing special. Same with Nathaniel Klein. They both sort of did their jobs effectively. In these games against top six sides, we sort of expect our fullbacks to attack a little bit less than they normally do, which really is a good thing, because they aren't the best attacking fullbacks in the world, and Milner is more just a hard-working player, and he does his defensive duties without complaining. So these are the kind of games where we want him playing at left back, and then maybe when we're playing against teams like Burnley, bring in Alberto Moreno instead. But all in all, good performance on the back four. The midfield hugely improved from the game against Leicester, where, against Leicester, the midfield pretty much didn't exist. Emre Can had a much better game. Adam Lallana obviously got man of the match from most media outlets, and he did all the work for the third goal, so that was incredibly impressive from him. And he generally kept things ticking over, and I think that's one of the reasons why we saw a return to this kind of Klopp performance, was the fact that Adam Lallana was on form, and earlier on in the season people were always saying that Adam Lallana was so important and it was him that made this gegenpressing system tick. So to have him back in form and back dictating the play from midfield is incredibly important, and hopefully he too can kick on for the rest of the season. Wijnaldum, very impressive, just did what he does every single game, which is, every single game where he plays well, which is just gets the ball, muscles off any players who try and get it off him, and then moves it on in midfield. Obviously he gets his goal as well, which was incredibly pleasing because of the way he took it and the energy he put in to get from midfield to attack in such a short space of time, especially in stoppage time as well, when he'd been on the pitch for 90 minutes, and his celebration was brilliant as well. So very pleased with Wijnaldum's performance. Up onto the front three, fantastic performance from all three of them. They really gelled in that game in a way that we haven't seen for far too long. I think the first two goals were all made by the front three combining in one way or another, which was brilliant to see. Coutinho looked back to his best in a way. It's just a matter now of hoping that he keeps that consistency and goes back to what he was early on in the season, where not only was he showing that he was a world-class player, but he was doing it week in, week out. So hopefully he can do that for the rest of the season. Firmino gets his goal as well, which is good, because he has been going on a sort of semi-dry spell recently, especially in 2017. So that was good to see, and obviously he was contributing to the attack in all sorts of different ways. And then obviously Sadio Mane gets his goal as well, and I think set up the first, but I'm not entirely sure about that one. Don't hold me to it. But yeah, Sadio Mane, brilliantly taken shot. Obviously, when you're in that much space, there is a lot of pressure on you and you need to deliver. And it was an incredibly good finish to put it past Petr Cech. So all in all, brilliant performances all round from the team. Addressing the Arsenal performance, not quite as good as I was expecting from them. I think a lot of people have obviously been talking about the decision to drop Sanchez. Personally, I wasn't sure whether I could see why Wenger did it, because I was a bit worried about Giroud going into the game, because he does always have a good game against Liverpool and he does have a tendency to bully our centre-backs. Obviously with Joel Matip in the team, he wasn't able to do that because Matip is very different to a lot of the other centre-backs Liverpool have had in previous years, wherein he actually relishes a battle with a centre forward rather than shies away from it. So these are the kind of games against players like Giroud where Joel Matip is actually incredibly important to Liverpool. So, but I can see where Wenger was coming from with his game plan. Welbeck decision was a bit strange to start him, but obviously he gets his goal, so that's kind of justified. Playing him at left mid didn't really work because obviously in Sadio Mane's goal, you could see that Welbeck was meant to be the one who's tracking back and covering Sadio Mane, but obviously when you play a centre forward at left mid, they're not going to have the defensive instincts that are required to play that role. So I'm not sure whether it was that Wenger had a plan and he simply got outthought by Liverpool and his tactics didn't work, or Wenger had a plan and his players simply didn't execute it properly and let him down. Not entirely sure. I'm not an Arsenal fan, so in all honesty, I didn't pay massive amounts of attention to their performance, but it was nice that they let us have the win in that game and they didn't show up and put in their best performance, because Liverpool needed that win. And the most important thing now, really, and the only downside to that win, really, is that now all we can think about is whether or not Liverpool can do that against Burnley, because I think if we can beat Burnley, then we're definitely in contention for the top four. And I'd actually say we're more likely than not to finish in that top four in the Premier League, because as long as we can sort out our form against these so-called smaller teams, then we'll be fine. Because I think apart from City, we're only playing teams from the sort of bottom half kind of region of the table. So as long as Liverpool can get that going, then I think we can finish the season strongly and we can deliver on what has been a little bit of a topsy-turvy, but in general quite a pleasing campaign so far. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here, and follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. Bye for now.